Hi everyone, it's Andrea, and today I want to talk about The Hunt by Andrew Fukuda. I got a copy of this from my library, so I was in no way compensated for this review. This is the first book in a 3-book series, and it's kind of a vampire story. I honestly am all vampired out. I've kind of been vampired out since I read Twilight and the Suki Stackhouse books. I really didn't love any of those kind of supernatural stories like that. I just don't really love them. But this one is different. First of all, I'm not sure if you could really call them vampires. They're probably the closest thing to vampires, though. They can't go out in the sun. They burn if they go out in the sun. They come out at night. They sleep upside down on the ceiling. They're really fast. It's pretty similar to vampires. They never come out and actually call them vampires in the book because in this book, the vampires have taken over the world. In the past, the humans were the dominant species, but now it is the vampires, and they call themselves people. When they speak about themselves, they call themselves people. So they never use that term vampire, but they call humans heppers. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. H-E-P-E-R. I call it hepper. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, so humans are heppers, and they are kind of like a delicacy to vampires, to the people of this book. And heppers are pretty much extinct because vampires, or the people in this book, they can't control themselves when they smell a heifer. When they see one, they want to eat it. So there aren't very many heifers left. And the main character of The Hunt is a heifer, but he is living among the vampires. And so he has to disguise himself as a vampire. He has grown up like this. His dad taught him how to blend in and how to appear as though he is not a heifer. He can't sweat. He can't laugh. He can't cry. He can't, there's so many things that he can't do because if he does that, then all these people / vampires will get him. They'll eat him. They'll realize that he's human and they'll get him. So he has to blend in. He has to do all he can to make it seem as though he is just like all these people around him. So it's not your typical vampire story. It's more of a survival kind of story, I thought. And I just thought it was really, really interesting and really compelling and a different kind of twist. And it's definitely more my kind of thing, this survival kind of story. And it was definitely intense and action-packed. And there are so many scenes where you think he's just not going to get out of this alive. He's going to die. So there's a blurb on the top of the book here that says, "Think of Hunger Games with vampires," from Rochelle Mead. And I think that's very apt because in this story, Jean, the main character, is chosen along with 6 other people to be part of the heifer hunt. There is this place called the Heifer Institute where vampires kind of study heifers. I don't really understand how they didn't just kill them all because, I don't know, I just feel like they would have gotten around it. But, I mean, they kind of explain how these vampires were unable to get to the heifers, but it still felt a little weird to me. Like, how did they get them in that place to begin with without killing them? So anyway, at the Heifer Institute, they have heifers living there in this enclosed dome that the vampires can't get into, but they keep them there and they're kind of like raising them there. It's kind of like a heifer farm because they're raising them there for this hunt. They've had this hunt in previous years, but they haven't had it for 10 years. So the main character, Jean, along with a girl from his school, and then 5 other people get randomly chosen as hunters for the heifer hunt. And they get to the Hepper Institute and they're shown around the place and they kind of go on this tour, and it really does remind me of the Hunger Games because there's all this like fanfare going along with it. The one thing that's different about the Hunger Games is there aren't any kinds of cameras on the Hepper hunt. So luckily for Gene, he doesn't have to get recorded for this. But Gene is kind of in this really horrible situation here because all the vampires are much faster than him, and he knows that the minute that the Hepper hunt starts, all the Hepper hunters around him are going to know immediately that he is not a vampire because he's just so slow and he's not like them. So most of the story is at the Hepper Institute preparing for the Hepper hunt, and there are just tons of different situations that Gene gets himself into where you just really, really think that somebody's going to find him out and somebody's going to realize that he is in fact a Hepper and not a person / vampire. There's some really great twists in this book, and I really, really love twists. I just really love twists. I think they're so much fun. Some of the twists I saw coming, so they weren't really twists, but there were also some other twists that I totally did not see coming at all, and I always love that. So I just think this book was really super intense, and I think it was just a really cool, interesting idea and a different take on vampires and a different take on a vampire story, because now I'm not any kind of vampire book connoisseur or anything like that, but the vampire books that I have seen are more of like a romance, vampires and humans living together in harmony, or in harmony by the end, whatever. And this is totally different from that. This is a story where the vampires have taken over and the humans are having to completely change their lives to just stay alive. They have to disguise themselves. They have to shave their body hair. They have to make sure they don't sweat. They have to make sure that they wash all the time so that they don't start smelling strongly so that the vampires don't smell them. It's just a really cool take on the vampire story, and I really liked it. I'm actually really surprised that I didn't read it earlier, maybe just because I thought it was a typical vampire book, but it's not. It's not a typical vampire book. It's definitely more of an action kind of survival story, and I just really, really, really enjoyed it. I cannot wait to read the other books in the series. I think that it will be amazing, and I can't wait to see what else happens in this series. So I know I didn't go into extreme detail about the hunt, but I didn't want to really spoil anything because there's a lot of stuff that goes on. But if you have read The Hunt or any other books that kind of have a different take on the vampire story, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.